Hello my dears, this is Sarah from SheHoldsDearly.com, and today I'm going to share with you some tricks on how to get seeds planted and out into the garden. It's not as simple as you think, so let me share some things with you. Okay, so when I first thought about planting my own seeds and having, the little starts that go in the garden, I just thought, oh, it's like preschool. You just put the bean sprout in the dirt and voila, everything works out. And then I ran into several problems. So I'm going to share with you my years of experience and hopefully save you some of the mistakes that I made. In fact, there were years that I just didn't do any seeds planted indoors because it is more work. Here's the reasons why it is worth it. I say just direct sow your seeds. But in Washington, we're in the northern state, very northern state, and so it's harder for us to get good crops. I'm always buying my seeds real carefully, making sure that their growing period's like the shortest I can get it to make sure that I actually get a harvest. But one of the things you can do is to get like a month or two head start on the growing season is to start them indoors. So the years that I'm really wanting to push food production like I am wanting to do this year, I go ahead and I welcome this process even though it's more time consuming. So the first thing you need to make sure that you do is get good seeds. I like the open pollinated variety or heirloom varieties because they don't have GMO issues and they are just proven to have great yields and great flavor and great storage capabilities and all those types of things. So I try to buy from a company called Territorial Seed Company, and I will link them in the description below. That's my favorite source, and I like to get fresh seeds every year. You can use older seeds, but for every year that it is old, you need to plant an extra seed. So if the seeds are 2 years old, I plant 2 seeds just because germination rate drops down. I have some watermelon seeds that are 7 years old, and you can't grow watermelon in Washington anyway, from my experience. And one of my daughters was like, watermelon, I'm gonna do this. So she planted like 20 seeds, and she has like 7 plants now. So those are pretty good germination rate. But she needed to factor in the age of the seeds. So that's my point. If you have old seeds, you need to plant a lot more. I always add a seed per hole for every year that the seeds have expired. I also like to keep my seeds in a recipe box if you're looking for a good way to store your seeds. And then I use the alphabetical dividers and have them all in there. And then sometimes I'll store that in the fridge or even the freezer. But that's a good way to keep your seeds organized. Number 2, I really like to use seed trays, and here are these little hexagon seed trays or little pots. I like to work with these. The plastic is sometimes kind of cheap, but I do recommend them, and it helps keep things organized, and I just like the size of everything. So these are worth investing in, a little bit of money, and then you want to fill them with the right kind of dirt, okay? So potting soil is what you want to use, and you want ones that don't mold. So before I would just take regular dirt from the garden and fill my seed trays. And the problem with regular garden soil is that it's really dense. Number 1, it's really dense. And so those tiny new roots have a hard time getting established in dirt that's that dense, okay? And then the other problem you have are there's seeds, like other weeds involved. There are little organisms that shouldn't be in there. There's mold. Those things will voluntarily sprout in the wrong kind of dirt. I actually have found that you can make your own potting soil, so I'll give you a little recipe for that. 40% garden soil, which is fine. You just don't want 100% garden soil. 10% sand, so that gives you your drainage, and then 50% organic matter. So I would just pull from the compost pile. But remember, you don't want any mold, you don't want any other seeds coming in, you don't want any parasites type organisms or anything. So when I make my own potting soil, I actually put compost before I mix it all up in my potting soil. And you want to put your oven on the lowest setting possible, and then I align baking dishes with tin foil, and I throw the compost in there, and I cook it for an hour. Just like barely cooking it, but it's just enough to kill the wrong things and leave the good things alive. So that's a good way to save money on your potting soil. One thing I do want to warn against with seed trays is not to buy the ones that have the little pucks, and then you add water and it has like a little net. Now, here's another issue that I see people doing wrong when they're planting seeds. There is a rule of thumb that when you have a seed, you want to look at the width. So the largest measurement on your one seed, so a squash seed, you know, would be like this size, or a like green bean, and then you want to double that measurement, and that's the depth that you put it in the soil. So if you take something like a carrot seed or a lettuce seed, which is like barely there, and you bury it in an inch like you would with a green bean, it'll never happen. It doesn't have a chance at actually sprouting, so you have to get the depth correct. Okay, so once you have planted your seeds in your seed trays, then water is very important, surprise, surprise. But because they're so fragile and because you have that depth just right on these seeds, you don't want to just douse it with water. I will either spray it from top, or I will take a pitcher of water and I will water it from underneath. So I'll lift up the tray a little bit and I'll water into that tray and let it soak up from underneath. I found that's the best way to water your seedlings. You want to take it inside, keep them inside. And a lot of these seed planting trays, this is the Jiffy brand, a lot of them will come with a plastic cover, like a little tiny greenhouse. And the other thing you can use is saran wrap. Just put it over the top of it, gives it that nice greenhouse effect, and you put it somewhere warm. People will put it on their refrigerators, they'll put them, we like to put ours next to our wood stove. And you can even invest in one of these seed heat mats. I'll link this in the description below, but these warm up, you just plug them in, and it's the exact size of one of these seed planting trays. They get about like 10 degrees warm, so it's just enough to heat up the bottom of that soil and encourage the sprouting. My cat also thinks that this is his, so whenever there's no seeds on it, you can find him laying on here. I'm showing you a comparison of what's going on actually in my garden. Currently, these peas were direct sown, and these are all done at about the same time. So these ones were direct sown, they're just now starting to pop up. Then the next space has ones that we started from seed and sprouted about like a month earlier than the next ones I'm going to show you, and they are so much healthier and doing the best of all three sets. In the third set, you'll see these were starts that I got early March from the nursery, but they've been in a greenhouse, and I don't know that they were actually hardened off correctly. I'm going to teach you what hardening off means. But they are doing okay. The best ones are the ones that I started myself in my house and transferred out to my garden. Once you do get germination, you get a sprout, which is so much fun. We call them our little babies when they come up, and it goes much faster than it would out in the soil because it's that warm, even heat. Once you get sprouts, then you gotta shift gears. And this is I'm gonna say the number one mistake that new gardeners make. They keep their seed trays in that warm spot. But once you get any type of a sprout, even one, you need to move on to sunlight, some type of sunlight. So I put mine out during the day at that point, but I also have used grow lights, and they look like this. This is actually just a shop light. They're not very expensive. Get them at Home Depot, and they hang from chains. And so I put my seed trays in like my laundry room area where I have some Home Depot like big shelves. I put those on there and I hung these lights over, and you want your lights like almost touch those green sprouts, and then it's that close for it to equal the power of the sun on the leaves. I had the lights on a timer, and I would need like 15 hours a day of that light on the green sprouts. It's a lot easier just to take them out in the sun. If you do not do that, if you wait for more seeds to sprout, I'm gonna show you what's gonna happen. They are going to not grow strong and short and fill out. They are going to get really leggy, it's called, and they get really long. And then a lot of times they will actually get, I don't know if it's like a fungus or a disease or whatever, but they actually like choke off down at the bottom. They get too tall, and then they like shrivel up, like the bottom half, and they die, and then it's over. So you want them to right away not be stressing, like reaching for light. You just want to give them the light, and then you get this strong root system and a strong stalk. So now you've got your plants outside. For 2 weeks, this is what I'll do. I'll bring them out in the morning, I bring them in at night to keep them warm at night, especially if you're still having freezing nights. It's just too much for them, they're too little, you need to come in at night for 2 weeks. Then you go through what's called the hardening off process, and I think this is a part that sometimes greenhouses will skip before they actually sell you the plant, and then people put them in the garden and they don't do as well, like my peas that I showed you earlier. You want to actually stress them a little bit and get them used to the outdoors a little bit more. Okay, and once they have been left outside, I would say 2 weeks. So once they've been left outside, say like 2 weeks, right? So all day, all night. Now they're ready to be transplanted, because that step is also going to be a shock. So you don't want to do it all at once. You're going to harden them off. And then once you do your transplanting, you just want to water them very well. You just pop them out, put them in the dirt, water them well, fertilize them if they need, and you will see them take off soon after that. Then it becomes time to mulch, weed, and watch out for pests. So the first pest that I have around here is slugs. So I'll either bring my chickens in the garden and let them snack, or I'll use this organic option, which is called Sluggo. These little pellets that you sprinkle around, the slugs eat them and they die. So that works well. Now from there, I like to use what's called the Back to Eden garden method. And it is from a friend of mine who lives in Washington, has a really revolutionary, very easy, organic way to garden, and I will link his YouTube channel below. And before you go, I have some printable seed packets. I have heard back from many of you that you'd like to hear about how I save my seeds in the fall, and so be looking for that video coming. That'll be a really fun one. I'd love to show you. And so if you want your own pretty printable seed packets, grab those from the link in the description on this video. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by. And if you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I do post regularly, and I share my DIY design advice and our vintage farm life. All right, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.